Good morning, everybody. Want to say welcome to you to our ninth, at least that's what I've been told, ninth Education Day. If anybody knows differently, please let me know. I am 4 months into my new role as the executive director at HD Reach, and I'm really really excited to meet many of you today, especially our families that we work with and serve, and that's the important part for me. I've met board members, and I've clearly been working with wonderful staff, but meeting you all is really what's important to me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. I want to go through, I have a whole little list. This is not a whole speech, it's just a list of things to remind you of and things to mention so that I don't forget them. So, in case you have not found them yet, or in case you need them, our restrooms are right down the hallway out here. There's 2 hallways, and on one of them it says restrooms, and then there's a whole bunch of restrooms, so you can find them right there. There are also quiet spaces for any of you who might want to just get away from the noise and the conversation and just have a moment to decompress. We have quiet rooms, they say wellness rooms on them, I think. Want to mention to all of you that this is being live streamed to Facebook, and so if you have any concerns or do not want your face on the live stream, please let us know and we'll make sure you get positioned accordingly. But hopefully we are being joined by many people online, and so let me say welcome to all of you as well. In your goodie bag, there is an index card. And we would ask that if you have questions that occur to you that you want to ask our panel of experts, we tried to collect some ahead of time, but perhaps something will occur to you as you sit here. We would like you to write down those questions during this session. We want to collect them at the passport table because then we will have them to also share with our guests when they speak. Speaking of passports, everyone should have one of these. All of our wonderful exhibitors all have little dots, and so if you fill in all the little dots and you turn in your passport card, put your name on it so we know who you are, you will be eligible for a door prize. But we hope that you will participate in that, and please go around and say hello to all of our exhibitors. Let's see, the HD Reach table is out front where you came in. That's where you turn in the passports. Raffles. Okay, we have wonderful raffles. We had so many raffles, we had to spread them out on the counter. So, you get a raffle ticket. It's 2 for $5, 6 for $10, or the best deal of the day is one of these blue sheets. There are 26 raffle tickets on this sheet for $20. Definitely the way to go. And so we have multiple raffle prizes, buckets. You pick where you want your raffle ticket to go in the bucket. And then we will be drawing those prizes at 3 o'clock. You have to be present, so that's our way to get you to stay all the way to the end of the day. But raffle prizes are right out front. Sorry, I keep moving the mic and I keep fading away. Also, we have this very fun banner. It's actually out here. It's attached to the glass wall. We have a banner that we would like all of you to sign as our HD heroes. You can sign in memory, you can sign for somebody, you can sign for yourself, you can put your handprint, you can just put your name, you can just put your initials. But we hope to carry this banner with us as we go to events and have all of you. There's Sharpie markers on a little table right there, so you can make sure you sign our banner. Brandy, is Brandy in here? Brandy's not. Brandy's the wonderful staff member that I work with that you met at the HD Reach table when you checked in. She's going to be wearing a sunflower if she's not already. And so if any of you at any point in time during the day feel the need for some added support or just want to sit and talk with somebody, Brandy is the person that you want to talk with. She has red hair, lovely. She'll be wearing a sunflower. And so let me get into some of the important stuff. We have an amazing group of volunteers that helped us put this day together. We have staff. We always thank our staff. Staff work really hard. Erica, Brandy, Kelly. But beyond them, we have a whole cadre of volunteers that I would very much like to say thank you to. Thank you for that. They are down in our game over area. They're in our childcare area. They're staffing all of the tables that are out there. They helped us set up last night. They'll help us break down this afternoon. So thank you so much for all of you and your support. Have several board members here, and because I'll forget somebody, I'm just going to say thank you to all of the board members that are here. We really appreciate the support today. So thanks for being here. And of course, our exhibitors and sponsors. They will all have an opportunity to introduce themselves to you later on, but this day doesn't happen without their support, and so we're very grateful. Neurocrine Biosciences is our presenting sponsor today, but we have sponsors from a variety of different pharmas, and we're just grateful for everyone's presence, sharing their knowledge and their information with us. And also our additional advocacy groups that are also here, right? We tend to think that this is HD Reach's Education Day, but all of the other advocacy groups are here, and we're really grateful for their support. And childcare, I don't see any little people, but if your little person is sitting with you and they get antsy or you want them to go into our childcare area, 2 hallways over, we have a childcare area for our young kids. We also have the Game Over area. If any of you, well, whether you're young or young at heart, you can go and check out Game Over. That would be an awesome thing, too. We're grateful for the volunteers that are in there. And, donation room. Almost forgot that one. Second hallway. We have a donation room from the Boloskis. Sorry, I knew I was going to do it. Helen Boloski passed away a couple of days ago. And her family is here. They are a great, Erica's staff person, but his random family that are here, like they're all here. And we're very grateful for their support. But she had a lot of things that they have brought to offer in our donation room. I asked Erica a little bit about her grandma, and so she loved to crochet. So there are some lap blankets in there. And just a very gentle and joyful person, and we are grateful for her donations. All of you are invited to go into the donation room. You can pick out something that you'd like if you want, if you feel you need that. There's little stickies in there. You don't have to carry it around with you all day. You just put your name on it, mark it, and then go back at the end of the day and pick it up. So we thank you for that. So I think that's it. That's all the business. Now we get to our keynote speaker, who's sitting right here. I'm going to put all this down because I'm going to do brief introduction for Patty Conlon, who we're very grateful for that you are here. Patty earned her Bachelor's of Science in Occupational Therapy from the University of Pittsburgh in 1993 and has worked in adult neurorehabilitation throughout much of her career. She shifted her career focus to Huntington's research when her husband, Rusty, was diagnosed and eventually passed from HD. Patty has been the primary clinical research coordinator for Huntington's disease studies at the University of Pittsburgh since 2016. She applies much of her life experience as a clinician, family caregiver, and now research coordinator to her role at UPMC, and as a result, has become a vital and integral part of the clinical research team. Patty has coordinated 8 observational and clinical studies under the direction of Dr. Valerie Suski. Patty is an active member of the Huntington Study Group, who's also here, thank you, sitting on their member education and executive coordinating councils. She also participates in presentations for the Western Pennsylvania chapter of the Huntington's Disease Society of America, who is also here, support groups, COE education days, HDSA National Youth Alliance retreat, and Help for HD, and hype events. I haven't made it to a hype event. I hear they're very fun. What a party, Patty says. Patty says her journey with HD has taken me through many challenges, years of upheaval, confusion, questions, redirection, laughter, tears, and eventual enlightenment. Through it all, she came to find that she had the skills to make it through as long as I tried to focus on solutions rather than problems, on gains rather than losses, and to look to the community I have found for strength, which means all of you. What was once a fight for my husband is now a fight for my kids and future family and all the families I have met along the way. We are grateful to have Patty with us today as we all reach for the future.
Thank you very much, Betsy. Well, she had quite an introduction, so I feel I don't even need to tell my story now. Anybody have any questions? No. My journey with Huntington's has taken me through quite a few different roles, and I am honored and excited Now they can't see me. There we go. It's all about you. So I have one request before we start. Oh, this isn't forwarding. There we go. We have a thing that we do at our Center of Excellence. We made, no, oh. Ah, turn it on. There, that works. So we have something that we do at our Center of Excellence. We send this out on vacations, on travels, to conferences, anyone who wants to spread the word about Cure HD. So before I get started, I'm going to have my handsome son here take a selfie that I did come to North Carolina for Reach, and okay, Zach, they're all waiting. There we go. So if anybody wants to get a group picture afterwards, we can do that as well. So my talk today is finding hope in what we can control. And I think that what we all face in life, and I can't believe that anyone, where is he? There he is again. Okay. I have to keep an eye on you to make sure I don't disappear for you. I think we'd all agree that being faced with a diagnosis of Huntington's in our family can seem like the largest adversity that we might have to face. But it's in how you face that adversity and how you work your way through it that can help you emerge on the other side with acceptance and knowledge of the challenges that it has presented. I'm going to go to this side. So I think everyone's familiar with the Serenity Prayer, and it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And we know that this saying has quite a meaning for us when we're faced with Huntington's in our family. We can't change it. We can't blink our eyes and make it go away. But what we can do is face the condition with the courage to change our loved one's experience. The Huntington's that a lot of people face these days is not going to be the same experience as our parents and grandparents faced. There are better medications. There's knowledge in the healthcare field about healthy living styles, better nutrition, staying active and exercise to make your progress a little bit better. There's education and support for families to pursue cleaner living strategies, reduce stress in your life. All of these things to try to make this Huntington experience a little better for those family members who have it. There is no cure for Huntington's disease, yet, says every researcher that I know, but we can treat it with understanding. So today I'm inviting you to join me on our story, my family's story with Huntington's disease. It took a newly formed family from a place of elation and hope for the future, to hopelessness, confusion, helplessness, and fear. It took us from being on the verge of divorce to a diagnosis that would wreck my world and my vision for my future. But then it would lead to forgiveness and compassion, ultimately a love that had no bounds. So this is our story. Isn't that a handsome guy? Young couple. In 1999, I met the love of my life. Rusty was strong, he was intelligent, he was funny, he was driven and family-oriented. It didn't take long for us to decide that he was my person and we wanted to make a life together. So we decided to move to the same city. We had met through mutual friends. I lived in Pittsburgh at the time, and he had just relocated back to Massachusetts. So being that he just came back to his hometown, it was my turn to move. So I gathered up my 3 cats. Yeah, that was me. The woman in her mid-30s living at the end of the street with 3 cats, collecting them. I gathered up my 3 cats and I moved to Massachusetts to start off a new life. And life went quickly for us. In May of 2001, we got married. In May of 2002, we had our first child, this handsome devil right here in the front seat. And in May of 2003, we had our I'm sorry, Megan. In June of 2003, we had our daughter, who is hopefully watching on the live stream. Hi, Megan. I'm sorry, I didn't forget your birthday. And our family was complete. Along the way, we added a dog, added a house, and we were living the dream until we weren't. Sometime in mid-2003, let me back up. My husband was a successful businessman. He was a CPA and a corporate accountant. He had just landed at the age of 33, had landed his first corporate controller position. And he was on an all-time high, had his brand new family, had his dream job. And then a few months later, it all came crashing down when he was let go from that position after a series of unforgivable mistakes. My son the other day asked me, what was the mistake? And it was thousands of dollars of mistake. But he persevered. He lost that job, but he started to apply for consulting positions, other short-term positions, and he would get them. And then with each position, something would go wrong. After a few months, he would be let go. And his reasoning for all of this was always somebody else's doing. The company just went in a different direction, or it was a hostile work environment and it just wasn't a good fit for him, or the assignment just ended. And during all of these times when he was going from position to position to position, there was never any indication on his part that he was the source of the failure in doing that. It's as if he wasn't aware of anything he was doing wrong. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? As I'm going through the story of the next upcoming couple years, I'm going to hold my hand up when I can see now some of the things that could be attributed to his Huntington's that was emerging. And I had no idea at the time. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly when the changes started coming. He was released from his company after making a horrible mistake. There was never any reflection of his performance in this revolving door of position after position. He refused to acknowledge his shortcomings, or was he simply unaware of them? There were no new permanent jobs on the horizon, and his demeanor grew darker and more erratic. So I attributed it to stress. He's a young man with a young family. He isn't able to support. This is a highly stressful situation. I'd attribute it to that and nothing else. We sought marriage counseling. The marriage counselor finally said to me, I've never seen anyone like your husband. It's like he's so anxious he can't sit still. And he's not taking any of the responsibility for the problems on his own. He always said that he wasn't the source of our arguments, that it was always my fault. He didn't have a problem with irritability. I was just too good at pushing his buttons. Zach may agree with that, actually. After a while, his anger turned into rage, and rage into violence. And I realized that I could not live with this man. And I certainly couldn't raise my children around him. So we sought a separation, and he was removed from the house. As we were making plans, I was making plans, for a divorce, and we had an active protection from abuse against him. He violated that by showing up at the house, which violated his perimeter. And in Massachusetts, that gives you an automatic 30-day sentence into the Plymouth Correctional Facility. And he was there. That stay was miserable. He wasn't getting some of the medications that he was prescribed. He told me later that the other inmates in that area nicknamed him Twitch. And he spent a lot of time in isolation for his own protection. So that was a miserable experience, and I knew that for him. His diagnosis came after a long and drawn out journey through many physicians. It went through generalized anxiety disorder, explosive personality disorder, depression. He was eventually seen by a neurologist who diagnosed him with Tourette syndrome. And I'm a healthcare worker. And as I'm listening to this, a friend told me that he was diagnosed with Tourette's. I said, that doesn't make sense. Tourette's doesn't come on in your mid-30s. Tourette's doesn't have the cognitive component that I'm seeing and why he's losing these positions. And that's when the light came on. And I thought, this could be Huntington's. So our next physician to go see, we were referred to a movement disorder specialist. And we were lucky enough to land in the office of Dr. Sam Frank. He was up at Boston University at the time. I'm sure there are many people in the room who are familiar with Sam Frank. He's very well known in the Huntington's community, and I am ever grateful for meeting up with him, because within 20 minutes of sitting in his office, he was able to say with a pretty good amount of certainty, this is Huntington's disease. Rusty was relieved. He finally had something that he could place his symptoms on. He finally had something to help him understand what was going on, because he didn't understand it either, and this was another source of frustration for him. So he was relieved to have a name to put to it. Knowing what little I knew at the time, and actually for healthcare workers, and I was trained as an occupational therapist, I think during the 8 years or so that I was an OT before that, I had seen one Huntington's patient before, and not for a long period of time. And I probably had 1 day worth of Huntington's education during my OT training. But what I did know is the genetic component about it. So while he was relieved, I was devastated. I was hoping for something that could be cut out. Hey, let's give him a brain tumor. We can cut it out and I can have my husband back. Not something that now my children have a 50% risk of inheriting. And the bottom dropped out of my world during that time. After his diagnosis, I did my best to be supportive and a supportive wife. I'll put these down. We were separated at the time. I was in a small apartment with the kids because the house had gone on the market. We couldn't afford that anymore. He was staying down at his uncle's house. And a few months later, he came to my door, begging, saying, you can't leave me alone with this diagnosis. You can't leave me out there all on my own. And we talked about it for a long time. And it was a leap of faith to bring him back into the house. But I put some ground rules down. You have to be compliant with your medications. You have to listen to all of the suggestions or the recommendations that Dr. Frank gives you. And I'm in charge of the money, and I'm in charge of disciplining the kids. And I thought with those rules, I had it all under control. And we went on for a couple more months, and it was good. Until it wasn't. In February 2009, I'm not going to go into the details of what transpired between us, but despite all of my efforts to try to keep him balanced and in good behavior, HD reared its ugly head again. This time, the charges were looking towards a prison term. So I went to the courthouse. I spoke to everyone that I could. I knew that this was because of his Huntington's. And prison was not good the first time around. It's not going to be good the second time around, especially if it's an extended stay. And that's not what he needed. He needed to be someplace safe. He needed to be someplace where he would get medication. He would get intervention. So I advocated and spoke to everyone that I could at that courthouse, letting them know that even as the victim, I don't think he needs prison. I spoke to the prosecuting attorneys. I spoke to the defending attorney. There was a court caseworker that I was able to speak to. I guess that was where my journey with HD advocacy started. And I managed, success of success, I managed to get my husband committed. He was sentenced to a year in the Taunton State Hospital. In Massachusetts, they still had state hospitals. I'm not sure about your state. Pennsylvania, we don't have long-term state hospitals for, I hate to say it, the criminally insane. But I knew he was in a safe place where he wouldn't be able to hurt himself, less likely. He wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. He would be compliant with his medications, and he would be getting some of the treatment, some of the therapy that he needed to come to the realization that, yes, you have a name to place to this, Huntington's disease. But with that comes your responsibility to be aware of those symptoms. So I guess in that respect, I consider myself lucky that there were a lot of healthcare workers during that very, very difficult phase of when my person didn't understand what was happening and wasn't acknowledging what he was doing. That anosognosia that we all hear about. And when the caregivers have the most difficult time actually helping their people because they're not listening or they're refusing that they have any problems. I was very fortunate that someone did that for me. A year later, his time came to an end. Actually, I got ahead of myself. During that time, I needed to face now on my children, who were 5 and 6 at that point. I needed to face on my children to help them understand what's going on with our family and to talk with them about Huntington's disease. Holy cow. I've been skipping over my takeaways. You can tell I went a little off script, can't you? So don't fault yourself for not recognizing those early symptoms. They come on very gradually. And watching someone very gradually or very slowly start to develop symptoms, it's just like watching your children grow. You don't see it happening day to day. Or unfortunately, in some cases, watching the weight creep on over a period of time until one day you get on the scale and you say, holy crap, where did those 20 pounds come from? It's never happened to me. as far as having my husband committed. Sometimes the most difficult decision is what's best and what's needed at that time. With Huntington's, we can't speak in absolute terms, such as always or never. We can't speak in terms of, or we can't make promises like, I will always take care of you in this home. I will never have you placed. I will always follow what you want me to do with your medical care. We can't speak in those terms because at some point they need to trust us as a caregiver to say, I'm doing what's best for you, and you have to trust that I'm on your team and I'm doing what's best for you. And sometimes that decision is a very difficult decision. I don't wear it with a badge of honor that I had my husband committed, but I saved him from prison. And at that time, that was what we needed. So talking to my kids, look at that, 5 and 6-year-olds. You can keep Huntington's from becoming a taboo topic by talking about it openly. And I know that's something that in some families that's becoming a very new concept. A lot of families kept Huntington's a secret for many years. Let's just not talk about it and it won't happen. Or if it's happening in the family, let's not worry the kids about it. They don't need to know what's happening here. But your kids know. Kids are very observant. They'll have questions. Why is Daddy acting so funny? Why is Daddy behaving like that? How come my dad doesn't go to work like other kids' dads do? Why did Daddy have to go away? And it's only through allowing them to answer those questions that you'll raise them in an atmosphere where they feel comfortable talking about Huntington's disease. So what I explained to my children when my husband was early symptomatic was Daddy has a condition called Huntington's disease. We named it. And it makes him think funny things. Or sometimes it might make him do bad things. But he's still your dad. And he's still the same person inside. We didn't get into the genetics of it. 5 and 6, they're not going to understand that or need to know that. But what I did was I left that door open. I said, anytime you have any question about Huntington's disease, you come to me and you ask me. And what I would do, or the promise that I made to myself, was I would answer it honestly and openly as I can, but in terms that their developmental age could understand. And that's how we got them. We got them educated to Huntington's. So you can keep it from becoming taboo. The other thing that we worked very hard, or at that point I worked very hard at, is preserving their relationship with their dad. Daddy has Huntington's, and he sometimes does mean things. But he's still your dad, and he's not a bad person, and we will always love him. He's always a member of our family. I made efforts to preserve their relationship with them. While he was away at the hospital, he was allowed to have his laptop, which was surprising, but a saving grace. And he had a private room at the hospital. So I had the kids Skype with him every night. And they could tell him what they were doing with their days, or show them their latest webkins, or the different things that they were getting into. I wasn't a part of these Skype calls. I would get it set up for them, but I still needed that distance. I still needed to work through some of my own things. But what I had to do was realize that my relationship and my difficulties with my husband because of his Huntington's were different than what my children were experiencing. And they still had a relationship with their dad that needed to be preserved. So the big thing is you need to leave the door open. make your kids comfortable to ask about Huntington's and comfortable to have those conversations. And I think for the whole, we did okay. Zach has grown to be active with the NYA. He's gone to a couple NYA retreats, attended NYA Day at convention. He went to HDO camp. Is Jenna in here? My son was actually lost at HDO camp. It was the first night they had all arrived, and everyone was in the common room having a grand old time. Someone turned around and said, "Where's Zach?" And the counselors all started searching the grounds. Oh, Erica, you were there? Erica can vouch. The counselors all started searching the grounds, trying to find Zach, and someone said, "Did you check his cabin?" "Yeah, we checked his cabin. He's not in there." Searching the grounds, can't find Zach, thinking, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to call Patty and tell her?" Hi, Jenna. Were you there? I was telling about when Zach was lost at HDO camp. And then someone came around again and said, "Did you check his cabin?" They went back and checked his cabin, and there he was, underneath all of his covers, fast asleep. That behavior of sleeping and not being able to wake him up continued through many of his teen years. And I even gave him a wake-up call 3 minutes before his alarm this morning. So during his stay at the state hospital, Rusty eventually did get more privileges. He was able to go outside. He was able to have the family visit him. And through the help of his absolutely wonderful mother and the best mother-in-law in the world, we were able to arrange times to visit him. And the kids had learned to ride their bikes while he was in there, so we took the bikes along with us. And this is them riding the bikes in the parking lot at the hospital while Daddy followed along. And then just getting together for some snacks at the picnic table. And I was able to look at those smiles again and feel for a sec that, okay, we did what was necessary. I kept my kids safe. But look at those smiles. We preserved that. When we went inside, we played a couple games of hangman in the activity room. It's kind of an interesting game to be playing at a state hospital, but we played a game of hangman. Both of the kids, they each took their turn, and both of them chose this phrase: "I love Daddy." So I knew that we had done it. We had done okay, preserved his relationship with his family, but got him the help that he needed. And his time there did end up being good. When it was time for him to get out of the state hospital, I still didn't trust bringing him back to our home. The variability of being in a home with small children and a wife that you'd kind of butted heads before, I was afraid that would bring up some of his prior behaviors. So we didn't accept him right into our house right away. His mother couldn't take him either because she was elderly. So his discharge plan from the hospital was to go to a group home with other elderlies. It was a very loosely scheduled environment where he had a lot of his own say in where he went and what he did. He would walk a mile to Dunkin' every day to get his iced coffee because, being a New Englander, he was addicted. But during that whole time, and that was about 5 months, he never had an incident or never had a behavior. So then we had a couple test drives. His mom brought him to Pittsburgh for a visit, and that went well. The family went on a big family vacation to Disneyland or Disney World, which, if you want to say unscheduled and unpredictable schedule, that's the day, and exhausting. But we did well. So the kids and I really thought hard, and we took a giant leap of faith again, and we brought him to Pittsburgh with us. Did I mention that I moved back to Pittsburgh during that time? I don't think I did. But we brought him back to live with us again. And I don't know whether it was our time away and the treatment that he got, the medication adjustments that he got. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, whether it was just progression in his disease and he was at a different stage and behavior wasn't as much of an issue for him. But thank goodness, we never had any altercations again. And we were able to live and finish out his life and his time as a family, just as I had always wanted, but we had made the difficult decision in the middle. So coming to Pittsburgh, we had to find our community. We immediately got involved with the Huntington's community in Pittsburgh. We have a strong chapter, Western Pennsylvania chapter of the HDSA. We have a center of excellence that's led by Dr. Valerie Susky, who Dr. Scott actually trained. And we got involved in anything that we could. We went to the HDSA conventions. I think that was the one in Nashville that had the beautiful big greenhouse in there. And this was my entire family rallying around Rusty at one of the HD races. At that point, he was getting around in his power chair. But my whole family was even able to come and embrace him again and trust that we were at a good place in our family. And I so much appreciate them for that too. Rusty got involved with Dr. Susky's encouragement, got involved in some of the education programs at the University of Pittsburgh. We would talk to up-and-coming medical students about HD. We were on a panel called the Dream Team that just went up in front of people and told our stories. And those medical students said, you know what, if you hadn't come here, we wouldn't have known what Huntington's really looks like and how it impacts families. We even made a documentary through a company. It was called Bench to Bedside. It was never aired in Pittsburgh except for once, so on local Pittsburgh television, so that it could be eligible for an Emmy. And it was nominated for an Emmy. So Dr. Susky and I say that anyone who meets us has the pleasure of meeting an Emmy-nominated reality TV star. That's me. And we did anything that we could to try to get people to understand Huntington's. And that wasn't driven by me. That was driven by this man. He wanted to do anything he could. And I know the audio is not very good on this, but I will wrap it up afterwards too.
Family history on this.
No, I'm adopted. It was a mystery for 6 months, or 9 months, or whatever it was. And but finally had an answer that this is Huntington. And so I was relieved, really. That's the only thing I can do, you know, is try to educate people about Huntington. And it brings me joy to tell my story and let other people know about my situation, and you know, and it's not dire. You know, things can be worked out, and yeah.
He was saying it's the only thing he can do is tell his story. It brings him joy, and he wants people to know that it's not dire, and things can be done about this. So that became our new family mission at that time. He was what inspired all of us. So we were a family on the move. Assess each day, take a look at the symptoms you're dealing with, and if he's feeling up to it, get up and go. We had a 10-game plan to the Pirates. Yeah, he did make the conversion from the Red Sox to the Pirates. I think mostly because the Pittsburgh, well, he was always a Red Sox fan, still. But the Pittsburgh tickets were so cheap that he was like, wow, I can get Major League Baseball tickets for $20 in the boxes. So we went to that. We would go down by the river in Pittsburgh. We did a lot of different things. Family on the move. This was in the log jammer at Kennywood. And we were getting him around in a wheelchair on that day, but he really wanted to go on the log jammer with his kids. So we got him down into that log. And I'll tell you, gravity was my friend. It was much easier getting him into the log than getting him back out of the log, trust me. Participating in fundraisers, doing vacations, taking him back up to Cape Cod so that he could do his love of fishing. And then participating in walks. And one of the things that's so inspiring about this picture is how much the kids enjoyed being part of that process and helping Daddy through that. After he passed, no, I'm not, I'm off. I'm completely off script. After he, oh my gosh. After he passed, that's when I decided that I wanted to continue my work with Huntington's disease. And I had been approached by Dr. Susky to become the occupational therapist for the Center of Excellence program there. And I took her up on that, but then while I was there, I realized that we really needed to get this research program going. So I became part of the research program. I took it over, and it's grown by leaps and bounds since that time. I've gone to many conventions. I've joined the Huntington Study Group. Jimmy, can you see that shirt I have on in the center thing? That's with the Harley. Yeah, the Harley thing, made by Lyndon Tabor. She makes great tie dyes. And we even got the Cure HD license plate for Pennsylvania, the only one. It's seen better days, but we continue his fight, and that's the important thing. So this was my husband not long before his passing, and I just still hear those words in my head every day. Teaching others about Huntington's is the best way I can help, and it brings me joy. And that's Rusty. So that's what we do, and Zach hasn't changed his shirt since this picture was taken. So I want everyone to put on their thinking caps. How can they turn their Huntington's experience into something productive or into something positive? It's not dire, and we can make it through. What can we do now to change the future for the HD community? And then I come to some suggestions, which you told me going off script has its limits, that I've come to my end. But becoming a mentor. I had mentors along the way to help me through this process. And now through my connection with the clinic, I'm able to mentor other people in our community and tell other wives and caregivers, no, you're not going crazy. This is what Huntington's brings, and this is how you can get through it. Or this is one suggestion, because it's different for everybody, isn't it? Support the fundraisers. Get out there. And it's not just a matter of raising the money, although that is important, because every organization needs money to do their good work. But getting out there and educating is so important. Advocacy. We've taken the opportunity to work together with the NYA. We've done the March on Washington with our super advocate capes. Do you remember those, Marianne? Join the research studies. So for the people in the room who are at risk or who have tested gene positive and maybe early in their disease or already symptomatic, please consider joining research. What we can find out now about Huntington's disease is what's going to help the experience for our generations to come. And Jody has a table out there for Huntington Study Group, has some information about research studies that we are offering, or that are being offered around the states. We can both be a resource for anything that you might want to pursue. Attend your support groups, and HD Reach is really a great organization down here. Western Pennsylvania has a bit to learn about from you. Attend your support groups, because that's where you might be able to lend a hand to somebody else who's just beginning their journey with HD and give them a piece of information. And I think, Zach, you've even experienced that. Going to NYA Day, and he's already been through the journey of seeing a parent fail, losing a parent. And he might be meeting people this year in Spokane, we're going, if he's qualified for the scholarship. He might have that opportunity to take somebody under his wing and say, hey, I've lived through this, and it's okay, and it's not dire. And join education events like this, or reach out and do your own education, however you can. So those are my takeaways and my experience, and I don't know if I have any time for any questions. Not really. But I will be on the panel. I will be on the panel, and I will be here all day to answer any questions that people might have. So, thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you. Thank you.